Welcome to today's podcast with Jennifer Karnes to talk about physical fitness important to fly fishing. I've known Jennifer for several years as she helped me recover from shoulder and spine surgeries. During that time, we talked a lot about the physical demands involved in fly fishing. While most people see fly fishing as a relaxing sport, the sport's physicality can be quite demanding with good physical health necessary for safety and injury prevention. Jennifer, welcome to today's podcast. Tell us a little about your background and why you think that physical therapy can help with people fly fishing.
Thank you for having me on. So my background is more in the golf world than the fly fishing world. I went to college and then on to physical therapy school, which was another 2.5 years, and I've been a physical therapist now for 25 years.
That's a long time. I'm sure that you've had a lot of people in here who are not only golfers, but fly fishermen over the years, even though you may not have focused on fly fishing as part of their rehabilitation.
Yes, indeed. We have a community full of recreational athletes, including fishermen here in Great.
So tell me how you think physical fitness needs for golfing overlap with those for fly fishing, and what kinds of things and what areas should people focus on when thinking of their physical health when engaging in fly fishing?
Yeah, there is a lot of overlap there. Golf and fly fishing, there is, a big need for core strength and stability. You have to have good shoulder mobility, good shoulder, upper body endurance, balance, proprioception being just kind of knowing where your body is in space. So you can either control the golf club or control the fishing rod. Grip strength also comes into play in both sports.
A lot of people talk about core strength. Can you tell us what you mean by core strength?
So core strength is the muscles that support your spine. So basically our body is like a cylinder and the spine is in the middle. So the core muscles are everything on the outside that are going to support the spine, like the abdominals, the gluteals, hip muscles.
And following up on that, what kinds of exercises should people engage in to maintain good core strength, not only for fly fishing, but for everyday life?
Some basic core strengthening exercise, I would start with a bridging exercise, maybe moving on to something like a plank or a pull-off press. These are all working just the middle of the body. All of these can be done easily at home or in a gym.
When you talk about those exercises, can you describe what they are?
Bridging is going to look like lying down on your back with your knees bent, and then you engage your gluteal muscles in order to lift your hips off of the floor. Whereas a plank is basically being in a push-up position and then holding your body straight like a board.
I know that's important, although I would probably say that a lot of us that are getting up in years may have a hard time holding a plank these days.
Indeed.
Can you talk about shoulder strength and shoulder flexibility? Because fly fishing has a lot of repetitive movements with casting, holding the rod, bringing a fish in, and all those kinds of things. So, what kinds of shoulder issues do people have, and what kinds of exercises do they need to have for shoulder strength?
I would say the most important focus at the shoulder is going to be the rotator cuff. And that's just meaning the muscles around the shoulder blade that support the shoulder itself. These are going to be exercises where you would use a light resistance band or a light dumbbell, moving the arm overhead somewhat in a throwing motion or moving the arm out away from the body. So you're going to need to do these for strengthening, but also for endurance. So we're not looking for a heavy load on the shoulder with these, but a lighter weight or a lighter band and doing more reps so that you can build endurance.
Well, I know that was really important when I went through my shoulder surgery and went through rehab with you to start building that strength back up again. A lot of people talk about shoulder flexibility. So, what do we need to do for shoulder flexibility along with the strength?
That's a good point. I would say preserving your overhead motion is very important. So maybe lying at the foot of your bed, lying on your back and stretching your arms overhead would be a good place to start. Another one is going to be a cross body stretch, just taking one arm across the chest and kind of pulling on that with the opposite arm. There are some really good examples of these in some links we'll put onto the podcast with video instruction.
Okay, that's great. What about other aspects of upper shoulder or upper body strength, hand strength, wrist strength, elbow strength, all of those kinds of things?
Yes, that's a good point. So grip strength is very important. That's going to come down to just working on the forearm muscles and the elbow muscles. And one thing that can happen is if your rotator cuff is weak, it's going to go down the chain. So a weak rotator cuff is going to result in extra stress on the elbow and on the hand. So you do want to focus on all the joints of the upper body. I would recommend some sort of grip strengthening device, or you could do something as simple as putty or Play-Doh to work on your grip strength.
Well, I remember when we were kids, we all had those little things that we held in our hands. We squeezed them, the resistance exercises, and those were things we always used when we were kids. Although probably as adults, it'd be hard for us to find out where we had those as kids and get those back again.
Probably on Amazon.
How often should people do these kinds of exercises in order to build up shoulder, core strength like that?
Well, as a physical therapist, I'm going to say every day. But the more reasonable answer would be mobility exercises really should be done every day, but strengthening exercises would be better to be done maybe 3 times a week.
So everyday stretching.
Yes.
We should stretch every day. Along with that, what about lower extremity? Because I know a lot of us will wade rivers, and rivers are never smooth bottoms, and it's never easy to wade, and you're going against a current a lot of times. So what kinds of things should we do for our lower bodies?
Simply being able to get up and down from the ground or the floor is a great exercise. I would encourage people to do that every day to maintain their lower body strength. And then working on the motion of sit to stand or a body weight squat. No extra weight in your hand, just being able to squat. And that's going to help you be able to navigate the rivers and be able to get up from the ground if you do happen to get down to the ground.
Unfortunately, all of us at some point in time or another have been on the ground. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between what would be needed for fishing and wading a river versus kayaking, because a lot of us are kayakers. A lot of the rivers around Texas are good for kayaking and fishing while kayaking. So what kind of exercises should we think about for kayaking?
That is a great question. I feel like maybe pulling type exercises for kayaking is going to be more important because if you're in a sitting posture and you need to work the back muscles, more of the upper back muscles and the shoulder blade muscles to sit with a good posture. So pulling exercises such as a resisted row or a resisted pull down would help with those upper back muscles.
I think that's important. Kayaking is a lot of fun. We all do it who are in the club, and we all have these very highfalutin fishing kayaks. And a lot of time after spending a day or so on the river kayaking, we're all kind of exhausted and worn out with all that. Let's talk about injuries, because unfortunately, as we get older, we're more prone to injury, and we're more prone to things that can happen to us that can interfere then with our long-term health and with fly fishing. So what kinds of injuries would you see people are at risk for fly fishing?
Well, I think the first one probably is going to be related to falls. And then maybe more frequent would be an overuse injury, something with the elbow or the hand from repetitive casting or holding the rod too long, gripping it too tightly, something that would maybe resemble tennis elbow or a tendonitis.
What are some of the injuries that can occur to the back from fly fishing?
I would say more, you'd be more apt to get a muscle strain from the low back with maybe when you're wading and you get a heavy current come through that you weren't expecting, you could get a muscle strain to the low back, or when you're lifting your equipment, getting your equipment in and out, that could definitely cause muscle strain.
How do you recognize whether you've suffered an injury? A lot of us will get muscle strain after a day of fishing. That's a lot of being tired and really overworking the muscles. But how do you tell whether you've actually had an injury or not?
I think of it as if you strain something, you get sore, maybe even for a few days. You're sore, it's a naggy pain, but it's intermittent. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. When you injure yourself, that pain lingers and it's more of a constant pain. It's something that you can't stop thinking about, something that keeps you up at night. Those kind of things are more of a sign of an injury.
How do we realize if an injury is relatively mild versus pretty severe and we need to get some professional help for it?
I feel like if you are changing the way you go through your daily activities, then you probably need to see either your physician or a specialist about the injury. Now, if this happens for 2 to 3 days, you don't need to rush to the doctor. But if this pain is lingering for more than a week and it's affecting the way that you shower, the way that you get dressed, the way that you sleep, the way that you get in and out of your vehicle, then you need to go to the doctor.
What if we feel like we've had a pop in one of the joints or our back? What does that tell us?
Pops are very questionable. Pops can actually feel good sometimes, but if it's a pop with pain, I would probably think about going to the doctor.
Well, unfortunately, I've had that experience where I've had some pops and ultimately ended up with a surgery as a result. So it's important. How do risks for injury change as we get older?
Unfortunately, our structure just doesn't hold up like we would want it to. Our bones get more brittle. Our tendons don't have as good a quality. So you can have easily get an overuse injury in your tendons just because you had too many birthdays. I would say tendon and bone were going to be the most apt to get hurt.
So, obviously, as we get older, we're more prone to injuries. The injuries can be more serious as we get older, and we need to be attentive to them. What do we need to do in getting ready for a day of fishing or a day of fly fishing, either kayaking, wading a river, or even fishing from the shore? What kinds of things should we do getting ready for that?
A good stretch in the morning would be a great idea, probably even a light walk to prepare your body, get your muscles pumping. A good stretching routine would include starting at the head and moving down the body. Stretch your neck, stretch your shoulders, stretch your low back by doing some forward bends. Just get everything nice and mobile before you get out on the water.
I've been fishing with a lot of guys. I've never seen guys stretch before they get in the river. And I know that that's probably something we should do, but we're all kind of resistant to things like that. But I know it's important, and I've known over the years as I've gotten older that stretching is so much more important than it was when I was younger. When we're young, we think we're invincible. As we get older, we think, well, maybe it's not so invincible as we once were. I often tell a story to people about what a young person who is presented with a problem and doesn't solve it right away. We usually look at them and say they're procrastinating. Although as we get older and we're presented with a problem and we say, I just don't want to deal with it right now. And lo and behold, over a period of time, it works its way out. And we call that wisdom.
Wisdom, discernment.
So that's important. What about rest breaks during the day? Because, an 8 hours of fishing on a river can be pretty taxing. And so what does that do to our muscles when we don't give ourselves time to relax and take breaks during the day?
Yeah, rest is going to be very important. I can't say for fishing, but I know with other sports, I would think at least every 45 minutes to an hour, you just need to let your body rest, let your mind rest too, kind of get yourself into a different headspace, take a drink of water, let the muscles that are working, let them rest.
What about at the end of the day? What should we do at the end of the day to kind of help our muscles recover and to get ready for the next day? Because As fly fishermen, one day just is never enough.
Well, the stretching protocol that you weren't going to do at the beginning of the fishing session, go ahead and add that into the end of the session. Stretching is really good before and after activity, but if you didn't have time to do it before, then certainly do it after.
All right. And we talk about cooling down. Are there other things we should do to cool down after a day of fishing?
I think hydration is probably going to be your most important part, and then just letting your body rest.
When we hydrate, should we just do water or should we look at some of the electrolyte supplements or other nutritional supplements that can help replace some of the electrolytes or other nutrients that we've burned during the day?
I'm a big fan of electrolytes. I think you need to mostly drink water, but if you're feeling different, if you're feeling maybe like you're a little lightheaded, possibly you're just a little foggy with your thinking processes, then you probably are low on electrolytes and need to keep some of those powder packs with you.
That's important. Are there any particular ones that you recommend to people?
I love the brand LMNT. I don't know if you say LMNT or if you just say Element, but I love that brand. They're kind of a sour taste with extra salt in them. And to me, they can really replenish my electrolytes after a good workout.
Should you consume them while you're fishing and over the course of the day?
I might I might wait until several hours in on the electrolytes. I think water is best at first. I would say at least 3 to 4 hours in before you add the electrolytes.
What other things should people do? Either getting ready to fish or after fishing or during our fishing experience?
Good nutrition is definitely important, and I would make sure you have a good meal the day before you're going to fish so that you have good stuff in your body. And then probably need to pack a little protein for the day. I'm not sure how many breaks you get during the day to eat food, but if you at least have a protein drink during the day, that would be helpful.
Well, I know that one of the best things about fly fishing is sitting along the river having lunch. So we do take breaks for
Good.
lunch, and that's one of the things that you can't experience fly fishing without sitting on the river and looking at the scenery and enjoying what nature has provided to us because fly fishing happens in beautiful places.
That sounds fantastic.
What other things should people know about physical health and physical fitness when fly fishing? We've talked about different kinds of exercises, building strength in different areas of our bodies, also with warm up, cool down, those kinds of things, how to recognize injuries when they occur, and what to do about them. So, what other suggestions might you have for someone who is going to be spending a day fishing or several days fishing? And we know that we have, with our club, we have people who have actually traveled all over the world, Alaska, South America, very exotic places. And that's one of the things that's great about our club is that people have such different experiences that they share. Any other things that you think people should know?
One thing we haven't talked much about is fall prevention. So that would be working on balance, working on being able to walk while you're carrying your gear, working on being able to walk on different slopes, walk on areas that have a different surface like gravel or rocks, just to keep your stability up so you don't end up on the ground
Or in the water?
or in the water.
In the water. So a lot of that also would probably really involve using a wading stick to help give you another leg of support while you're wading or you're on the shore. I know that I use a wading stick when I fish because you don't know what's under the water sometimes. You can't always see what's on the bottom, and trying to step over rocks that are sometimes several feet high, or you're trying to scale things and get around boulders it depends on where you're fishing. So having a wading stick is one of the important things to use. Anything else as we kind of wind up here today?
Not that I can think of right now. I feel like we've covered some good topics. I would just highly encourage overall mobility in the shoulders and core strength, and just go catch a lot of fish.
Well, that's the goal. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put on the podcast some links for places where people can go and they can find some of the exercises we talk about, some other resources to help people understand about physical fitness and fishing, fly fishing. So that's really going to be important. And I encourage everybody who's listening to go to those sites, look at some of the information that's there, materials, download some of the exercises. Therapy bands or elastic bands, you can get those in almost any sporting goods store these days, Target, even Walmart. All those things are available there, and get some of those and start using them. One of the things that I found was really helpful after my shoulder surgery was a pulley system that you can make for about $2. Actually put over your closet door and use it every morning. I still use it about 5 minutes a day. And that helps to build shoulder strength and mobility and flexibility. And that's one of the few exercises I really, really enjoyed for my physical therapy. And I think people should think about that. Anything else?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
All right. Well, great. Well, this has really been enjoyable. And Jennifer, I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope that people will take this to heart and start building on their strength and fitness for fly fishing so they will have many, many more years to come.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thanks to everyone for joining us today. If you like the podcast, be sure to subscribe. If you're interested in joining our club or any club activities, check us out at fortworthflyfishers.org. That's all one word, fortworthflyfishers.org. Try one of our meetings. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at the University of North Texas Health Sciences Center in Fort Worth. And stay tuned for our next podcast. Remember, Fort Worth Fly Fishers is a 501c3 organization responsible for all content provided. Please keep fishing, and remember, fly fishing happens in beautiful places.